Friends, good evening. I would like to respond into the call of some friends in this industry that if I could make presentation for a short presentation, but I think it will take long because of the discussion in each element of NEBOSH IG1. Now, they requested me to make a presentation on a short discussion on IG1 and IG2. I will reserve IG2 perhaps on next week because IG1 alone, it will take a very long discussion. The benefit of listening and subscribing into my YouTube channel, my friends, especially if you are taking your NEBOSH exam or scheduled to take this exam next month, the following month, and the following month within this year, this will help reinforce your stock knowledge, understanding, and memory recall on the elements of health and safety management, which is the coverage of IG1. Take note that the old and new syllabus have difference. The old syllabus consists of IGC 1, 2, 3. IGC 1 of the old syllabus consists of health and safety management system. IG2 of the old syllabus contains hazard, international workplace hazard, and control. In that unit, you will understand how to identify the hazard, how to label them, and how to recommend measures to rectify those identified hazard. In IGC 3 of the old syllabus is the practical. This is the paperwork for each of the candidate to take their to identify hazards. And out of 25, you have to prioritize 5 and make recommendation to top management. You have your conclusion and recommendation to top management. But that old syllabus was changed into the new one. We have currently NEBOSH General Certificate for IG1 and IG2. It is not IGC 1, 2, 3. Now we only have IG1 and IG2. Now my focus now in this presentation is IG1 unit IG1 element 1. Now in element number 1, we will be discussing on why we should manage workplace health and safety. This topic means why an organization should manage health and safety. Why your company who hires you and me to manage health and safety in the workplace? Why? Alright. Similarly, the question sometimes be thrown during an interview. Why health and safety management? Why an organization should manage health and safety? Why the company requires you to be the safety manager and run the affairs on health and safety management of perhaps or maybe the corporate health and safety management, or maybe the project health and safety management. Now I will be discussing on the difference between corporate health and safety manager and project health and safety manager, their different role, the difference. But for now, I will be discussing on element 1 of IG1. But if you would like to be updated on my YouTube presentation on health and safety management, please subscribe. Click the subscribe button in red link. Then like and share if you would like to share my presentation to some friends. And I will feel free to do that. And I would be happy if you can share it to some group of friends, either WhatsApp or Facebook group, Messenger. All right. Now, why an organization should manage health and safety? What is the fundamental reason? Why the British in 1974 come up with their health and safety law? 1974, you have HASAWA, the Health and Safety at Work Act in UK. And what about in US? Why in 1970, for 6 years earlier than the enactment of the British Health and Safety at Work Act. We have OSHA, the Occupational Health and Safety Act in US. Friends, there are fundamental reasons laid down in principle why an organization should manage health and safety. Because number one, by the way, there are three fundamental reasons. And I would like to explain each one of these. However, you can list them down interchangeably. Alright. So what are those fundamental reasons? Number one is moral. Moral reason. The organization has the moral responsibility from hiring workers into his company to work for a project. He has the obligation the moment he hires somebody to work into his organization, he has that responsibility by the principle of adhesion, meaning it will not be through certification, not by confirmation of any sort of any document that you have as an organization, you have that responsibility over them. So when you hire somebody to work under you, you have that responsibility. All right. That responsibility is to take good care of the workers. To take good care like that of a good father. Like of a prudent man to protect its workers from the harm on the unsafe acts and unsafe conditions, moving equipments, working at heights, excavation, confined space, maintenance of moving equipments on site, that these workers shall be protected because it is the moral responsibility of your employer. Take note that in understanding the moral obligation, we will reach to the point of understanding what are the fundamental obligations of an employer. Take note, there are employer's obligation, and the keyword is safe WAPS. What is WAPS? WAPS stands for WAPPS. That is the fundamental obligation of an employer. What is that safe WAPS stands for? W stands for safe workplace. A stands for safe access and egress. P stands for plant, tools, and equipment. That is why the company shall spend for ensuring the plant, tools, and equipment to be third-party inspected and certified. Sometimes, some clients, you will be required to purchase the portable appliance test device to check whether the continuity, the insulation of your electrical cable from the source of power to the portable power tools are still safe. So you have safe workplace the moment you have proper housekeeping and everything in there. But take note, safe workplace is one obligation. Safe access and egress, safe plant, tools, and equipment, safe people, and safe system of work. Safe system of work is not owned by the manager himself. It is the decision of the corporate body, the organization, to acquire certification, to adopt whatever international health and safety management, or maybe quality management or environmental management. That system of work includes the encouragement, the requirement of developing method statement and risk assessment. Take note that risk assessment is the fundamental, the cornerstone of health and safety management practice. Without the requirement of risk assessment, perhaps our profession will never exist. Maybe this industry, the construction industry, does not require your talent and my talent as well. Maybe this industry, without the requirement of risk assessment, they don't need the expertise of somebody that is well-versed in understanding, identifying the hazard in the workplace, and providing them recommended controls. Maybe there is no point of studying NEBOSH examination, OSHA 30 hours, ISO 45001, risk assessment and risk management course, because risk assessment is not a requirement. However, because of these laws, Health and Safety at Work Act in UK, the OSHA in America requires risk assessment. Take note, this is the cornerstone of health and safety practice. Now, that moral obligation requires the organization to hire professionals, because we are here to ensure that the requirements and obligations of your employer will be implemented and realized. Your CEO, your director, the president of your organization, and my president, my director, the boss on top of me. All right? These people are not on the site every moment of the day. Imagine a company running 12 projects. Your director, the owner, your employer is not at all times in each of these 12 projects, for example. That is why he hires you and me, because he wants that by hiring you, he can implement his obligation of providing safe workplace, safe access and egress, safe plant tools and equipment, safe people, and safe system of work. That obligation is partly shifted to us. But of course, the person who hires us is the person responsible for the outcome of health and safety. But to implement them, we have to be the nerve. What do you mean by nerve? We should be the sensory mechanism to feel if there is something wrong from this project, from the project where you were assigned. You have to discuss and talk to me, communicate. And let's produce the end product of this discussion. Maybe a procurement of some self-contained breathing apparatus, or sending LPO for the training requirements on site. So, that is because of the moral obligations. We have safety manager that can talk with the project management, link what is actually happening on site, what are the conditions on site, and how we are going to know about them. Should we find solution, rectify them, make procurement of some materials to close those issues, or hire a third party to determine whether our equipment is still suitable and capable of lifting that type of material. The issuance of Ptw is one of the crucial health and safety implementation to ensure that the workplace is safe. So, safe workplace, safe access and egress, safe plant tools and equipment, safe people, and safe system of work are the obligations of your employer. But he hires you and me to ensure that those obligations are implemented and realized because of that moral obligation. All right. I will be discussing on different note on the duty of care. The duty of care of an employer and the obligation of the CEO. Even if he is not around, why your CEO will shoulder the liability in a separate discussion. But we are here for the purpose of discussing the fundamental reason for managing health and safety. Number one is moral. Number two is legal. Legal because civilized country today, develop their health and safety law. We have HASAWA in UK, OSHA in US. We have QCS 2014 Section 1 Part 10 in our QCS Qatar construction specification, and along with this, we have some other circular from the Ministry of Civil Defense. We have civil defense guidelines for temporary structure and other related guidelines for permanent and temporary structure. We also have Ministry of Labor issuing circular. Alright? This means that the legal requirements is not only confined to one instrument, which is the occupational health, the QCS 2014. By the way, Qatar had already experienced, based on my understanding, that we have 2010 before. I arrived in Doha at 2012, and at that time we have 2010 QCS. Now, 2022, January. Alright? Now, in this period, we already have 2 QCS. One is in 2010, and the current is 2014. Alright. Similarly, in US and in UK, the implementation of health and safety is not only confined to HASAWA because of the development agency or authority having jurisdiction. We're developing some regulations, some directives to ensure that health and safety in the workplace are properly implemented. Similarly, in US, in Qatar, Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, based on my reading and research on the available documents, both in the web and through internet, and some discussions with friends, there are also guidelines that serves as the reference in implementing health and safety, but not solely confined in the legislation. Of course, there are authorities guided, empowered by the authority to implement and to issue directives and circulars for occupational health and safety in the workplace. Like the total number of urinals per workers, like the presence of first aider, the requirements for first aid facility and hospital. There are 2 different provisions for first aid facility and clinic. There are also certain requirements for the potable water, for toilet on site, for the eating area requirements, the mess hall. Now we have the permit from the Municipality of Environment pertaining to the chemical storage. Alright. So, friends, we discuss about the moral obligation, the employer's obligation, why he has to manage health and safety. Now, if you are an employer listening to my discussion, watching my presentation, maybe your safety manager had forwarded my presentation to you. I'm telling you that even in the absence of legal obligation, even in the absence of financial and economic reason, we as a human being, whatever our religion, we have that moral responsibility. The moment we employ people, we have that moral responsibility like that of a good father to protect his men in the workplace. Alright? Now, that is the number one reason why we have to manage health and safety. You cannot just ignore health and safety because there is no law. You cannot ignore health and safety provisions because anyway it has no economic implications. That is only one among the discussions in the fundamental reason. Alright. Now, if you can add something on the discussion of the moral reason, then you are free to click the comment section and post your comment. Now, the second fundamental reason for managing health and safety is legal, which we discussed each of the civilized country today, the parliament had already put in place the discussions pertaining to protecting workers in the workplace. And some of them are already in the implementation stage, and also integrating the ISO certifications into the practice of health and safety in most of the countries today. Now, another reason is, number 3 is, we already finished with the moral obligation, legal obligation. Let me add with the legal obligation, sorry. The legal obligations is, and will likely result into two discussions here. We have criminal and civil law. The implementations of criminal and civil law pertaining to health and safety. When there is a failure on the part of the employer, then the authority, the police department, the investigating team will determine whether there is a probable cause of filing criminal case or maybe just a civil liability. Now, the difference between the two is that criminal, the person who is required to do so failed to provide. So there is an act of omission, because in criminal law, there are two types of action which is punishable. Number 1 is overt act, intentional. The other one is not by overt act, however, it is what we call by act of omission. The first act is commission. When you commit something which is against the law, that is a crime. There are crime that even if you did not do something, however, you are required by the functions of your office to do that, to provide health and safety provisions, to provide personal protective equipment. Then the personal protective equipment request is offered in your table but you refuse to sign. There is the obligation failure. You fail to deliver what is expected on you. By that act of omission alone, employers, duty holders are liable because of that acts of omission. Meaning, in your possession, there is a degree of responsibility that you failed to do and resulted to the loss of life, damage of property, either repairable or irreparable, but resulted to bone fracture or hospitalization or amputations or whatever. Then that is the obligations of the employer. Moral and legal obligation. Now let's go to financial and economic. Now, financial and economic reason is that whenever a person or a worker sustain injury in the course of his employment while he is in the workplace, then the employer has the obligation to send him to hospital for further medical attention, and the employer shall cover the damages. So the hospitalization cost, the blood money in case of fatality, all right, and the damage of company's reputation, which is unquantifiable. You do not know where the damage of the reputation will reach because of that failure. All right, so the financial obligations, the financial reason for you to manage health and safety is huge. If you love your company to grow further, and if you want that your company will be a remarkable company in this industry, a highly regarded company, then you have to produce your product with quality, and at the same time, you need to protect your workers as a matter of obligation. All right. Otherwise, there are financial obligations in every circumstances. Bone fracture, hospitalization, fatality will result to damage of company's reputation. Payment of blood money and closure, work stoppage due to an ongoing investigation. This is something that will affect your company. This is something that will affect the progress. This is something that will extend the targeted completion of the project. So, if you love your professional record, if you love the reputation of your company, if you love your dependents who are waiting for your hard-earned money for them to continue their education, all right, manage health and safety. Because there is moral, there is legal, and there is financial obligation attached in every implementation of occupational health and safety. In the next slide, I will be making another presentation under Element 1, Unit 1, IG1 of NEBOSH. If you would like to join my every discussions, and if you would like to have some comments on my presentation, click the comment section below. And I would be thankful if you can subscribe and share my video presentation to your friends. Thank you and good evening.